I just have one of those faces. Just very familiar. All right, I'm gonna just read old shit.
Old shit?
Fairy tales aren't real, she told me. She told me they were just stories. Stories that kept my monsters from running out of their respective closets, but I like to believe that believing in Aesop fables is just as important as believing in Jesus. Because my monsters are real, they are big, and they stick around. So I believe in many things out of fear of any of them leaving me, even my monsters. I love my mother. She carried me for approximately 9 months. And I approximate because even though I technically was there, I don't remember much. But even in the many years after, I do remember being papoosed and cradled in protection and guidance, civil guidance, which led me to the altar of my God plenty of times, though I always felt funny around priests and magicians, never trusted them. Well, my mother would still say pray. So I would pray that this God I was given is the real thing. I would pray that my father made it home safe from service every day, pray that our family continues on this way, and it did. It's the only reason why I still believe in God. Because I met my maker in all of her stained apron glory. My God who stood in the doorway before nightlights were lit. My God who stuck more super glue into my broken pieces than scripture ever could. My God who stands at an age that guarantees her safe passageway into heaven, because anyone who's seen enough of this life has seen enough to get it right. She's a painstaking miracle, a headache for angels, an ass whooping with the correct kind of consciousness to keep the demons out of her baby boy, and I was exercised of them thoroughly. She isn't a Bible thumper as much as she's a faith fanatic, which means she believes in all broken things, even me, and that we miss a lot of church. Wherever there was room to insert God in any room, he was there wherever she stood. It's why I ask so much from my God, because I have been given so much from my mother, that in the light of my maker, my monsters never stood a chance.
How are y'all doing today? Good. Give it up for your host, Rooster. Now that we've got that out the way, fuck Rooster. Yeah, so,
don't fuck that guy.
Yeah, but don't fuck that
Yeah,
we don't need those problems. Crazy thing, like, as we were putting together the list was happening, and he was like, are you reading? And I said, no, I'm good, I'm not gonna read tonight. And then a few minutes later, he said, are you reading? I'm like, no, I'm good, I'm not gonna read tonight. And then a few minutes later, he said, are you reading? I was like, God damn, am I reading? He was like, yeah, you're reading. So, hey, Paul is here. Who figured? So, because I'm up here, I'm gonna read 8 poems.
Hey.
Y'all didn't even know. This is really old shit.
Really old shit.
Like really old. Mad old shit. But I figured worse, it's in the summer, so. There is something about summer. Something about warm days and cool nights. Something about sundresses. Something about, hey ma, you in the blue. Something about, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt whatever it is you're doing, but since I've interrupted, let me borrow your heart for the next few months. Let me take you from concubine to queen. Let me remind you of what falling in love feels like. Then let's break up. In other words, let me make you my next ex-girlfriend. Let me speak to you in your love language. Let me buy you gifts while spending quality time, while affirming your soul, massaging your heart, and resting my head in your bosom. Then, right after we settle in for comfort, let me leave. Let me not call you for days, disappear for a lifetime, or maybe just a moment. Let me string you along until Halloween. And right before Thanksgiving, let's call it quits. Let me send you cryptic messages through the holidays just to say I'm thinking about you, but not show any real intentions until right after Valentine's Day. Then, right around late spring, when the sun finds its way to the top of the sky and the coldness has started to melt in your heart, let me accidentally see you out enjoying time with your friends wearing that favorite blue sundress. Let me say hello, apologize for how things went, then let me work my way back into your heart. Let me love you the way you should have been loved in the first place. Let me realize how flawed I was and how you loved me through my flaws. Then, when I found my strength in you, let me wake up to a note on my pillow saying that you tried to love me, but your heart was too fragile, and maybe another lifetime, maybe when our stars align, maybe some summer when the days are warm and the nights are cool, and I see you and simply say, hey Ma, I didn't mean to interrupt, and that will turn into a lifetime or a moment or just a memory. In other words, let me fuck up your future. Thanks.
Tu espíritu y el mío son eternos a través del universo. En cada vida pasada te he tenido en mis brazos solo para envejecer, morir, nacer y jugar a las escondidas hasta encontrarte de nuevo. Tu alma y la mía se escriben poesías a través de los sueños, como pistas para delatar dónde estamos en esperanzas de encontrarnos. Y de repente escuché tu voz. En un día tan normal y mi corazón vio el cielo empapado de estrellas fugaces cargadas con cada deseo deseado a lo largo de mi vida. Esos deseos siempre pedían conocerte. Los planetas se alinearon en ese día tan normal y los retrógrados se aclararon por unas horas. Y luego aprendí tu nombre.
Yeah!
Sorry guys, this air is hitting my hair. It's getting my eyes. Okay. All right. This was called Museum. On a day like any other, I was cleaning my heart out, doing some spring cleaning. I opened the window and the doors to let it air out, and although I didn't see it coming, you wandered inside. I watched you step in gracefully and admire the art on the walls of all the canvases my heart breaks of mustard. And as you paced the floor slowly, the type of careful and slow one does at a museum, I stood frozen. Please leave, we're closed, my brain thought, but the words just wouldn't escape and my throat had sealed shut. So all I could do was just watch you as you absorbed the novice art on the walls of my heart, which honestly embarrassed me. But you didn't look away. You never looked away. And I watched you watch me, and I loved you all the more for that.
Yeah!
One more. And I'll handwrite 100 books lost in the abyss of your eyes, on a blanket under the cool shade of a tree. I have felt forever in your arms, so trust me, forever here I'll stay. But I wonder if you've ever written anything for me, secretly, within the protection of pins or face locks, so no one else discovers that your heart also writes novels when you see me. It fabricated the plot when you casually glanced at me and you didn't mean to slip into my eyes. Somebody should have put a sign on the floor, one of those yellow signs with the guy that's kind of slipping, and no one did. And he slipped into my eyes, and while you were there, you sat under the cool shade of my oak tree and then began to write dialogues that all happened at 5 a.m. I imagine that your body vibrates during the silent conflict of accidentally yet gracefully grazing my hands during something as innocent as a hurricane, when all we both really want is to hold hands, hold each other. So I wonder, and honestly I can only wonder, if somewhere inside you feel the same as I do, and you write as much as I to the melody of your laughter. Thank you.
Edited.
The matter of us is a matter of words, and we are words of the matter. And as a fragment of the matter, we don't get to decide who comes into our lives. And we don't get to decide who leaves our lives. What we can decide are the moments are the matter of moments that are created with these individuals as they press an imprint of themselves into our being and make us matter. One moment ago, the rhythm of my false self said nothing mattered, comatose with no matter in this world. But the matter of us is a matter of words, and we are words of the matter. And a pulse, this pulse, a navigational pulse, erupted my silence, and words forced its matter to form a different path that mattered. And after being forced to examine all my matter, wallowing in a whirlpool of words that didn't matter, I entered essential moment, mattered moment, that, and multifarious moments began to happen. And this matters because it made me matter. And shouldn't moments be formulated with words of the matter that make us matter? Because the matter of us is a matter of words, and we are words of the matter. And as a fragment of the matter, we need more moments of in-depth conversations that matter. And with these words of matter, we'll make moments that truly matter.
I haven't had a chance to work on it, so here it is. I just dropped $2,000 at the Good Feet store. Because that hurt in my heel wouldn't heal just like any other body wound. Maybe $2,000 isn't a lot to you, but for someone who has had to live without for too long, it is. In the end, Frida may not have needed her feet because she had wings. She had poder, and at least she had a father who shared his love for art. She learned how to draw and paint and how to share her love for others and herself. After learning how to crawl, my feet have carried all the weight of me plus one. These are the feet that hurled my body into his arms so that he could lift me up and love me. And as incredible as it may seem, as incredible as it may have sounded, I wanted him to love me too. Sometimes these feet didn't know when to walk away. Like when he locked me in a bear hug or pushed the side of my head into the carpet of our first apartment. My feet carried my ghost, the person whose mask I wore until he said enough. He decided. But what he didn't know was that the extent of me. The woman who he tried to mold to meet all of his needs for free was the same woman who breathed life back into me. Swept me up and said, "Come on, Mika, you can run." Thank you.
Damn.
My daughter comes home from school and says, "Mommy, we had a lockdown drill today." And I know she has practiced these before, but I ask her just to be sure, "Tell me what you do in a lockdown." And she responds, "We all have to hide in the closet in the dark and be very quiet, and it's kind of scary." My 15-year-old sister looks at me with worried eyes as she asks me, "She doesn't have light-up shoes, right?" And what a world to live in, where sending my 6-year-old to school with light-up shoes can be the difference between life and death. On May 24th, 2022, I got a notification of an active shooter at Uvalde Elementary School. I kept a tab open on my phone while I worked, constantly refreshing the web page for updates. I watched as the death toll slowly rises, and I tried to work through shaking hands and a knot in my throat too big to swallow. That day, I picked up my daughter from preschool and I held her for a long time. I prayed for the first time in years. I prayed for my girl, begging for her constant protection. I prayed for the mothers who had to go home without their child, just to notice she forgot to move her kids' laundry from the washer to the dryer and realized that it no longer matters. I prayed for the brothers and sisters who shared a room with their sibling, who had to wake up the next morning to an empty bed beside them. I prayed for the students who had to go back to school and never see their best friend smiling at them in the hall again. And I prayed for the teachers who now had to carry the burden of healing their community and themselves at the same time. But I said no prayers for the souls lost, My faith in the universe runs deep, so there is no doubt in my mind that the lives lost that day are in paradise. It's too late for prayers of hope for them. I work in a high school now, running through my just-in-case plan in my head daily. My students know exactly which common classroom items to turn into self-defense weapons. They know where to find our industrial-grade door stopper. They know to use our bookcases and desks to barricade the door, and they shouldn't have to know these things. So many of these kids experience violence at home and come to school for a safe haven. School should be the one place they don't have to worry about blood being spilled, and yet these children understand that having at least a little bit of fear every day could save their life. And tell me how that's supposed to be okay. I'm done asking why Greg Abbott decided vapes on school campuses were more important than gun reform, because we all know the truth is that he's trying to advance the school-to-prison pipeline. I'm done asking why they decided to have an armed person who doesn't even need to be an officer on every school campus was going to be effective. Maybe their ancient brains have developed short memory, but the rest of us all remember that armed officers who stood by in Uvalde. Tell me again how just one person on every campus is going to be effective. The truth is, they know it won't be. They are trying to put Band-Aids on the gaping wounds of Texas's children to appease the broken hearts of the parents who have bloodied hands from trying to stop their kids from bleeding out. Texas lawmakers do not care about our children. They care about pleasing private prisons, the NRA, and every other billion-dollar corporation that makes their money off the blood of our loved ones. I'm done asking questions. I'm done telling you to vote. Just know I'm here waiting for the revolution. I'm waiting to watch our systems crash and burn, and believe me, I will be there in the ruins, dancing on the graves of the dead agendas from conservatives who try to convince people that the real danger is drag queens, or trans kids, or books, or poetry, or music, or literally just educating children on the history of America. These are not your enemies. These are just things that make us human. I'm not even saying that guns are the real danger. What I'm saying is that the danger lies in the government officials that yell until they're red in the face that what's wrong with this country is the loss of traditional Christian values, when God knows that if Jesus were on earth today, he would tell these officials to cut out their tongues for spewing lies. He would tell them to gouge their eyes out for seeing nothing but hate for their neighbor. If they can stand before us claiming they are holier than thou, then how can they choose over and over to be disciples of evil, to be a slave to greed, to use hate to serve to the masses, to refuse to even try to perform miracles with their laws? How can they sit and listen to the parents of these children plead for them for change, their parents bleeding, their hearts bleeding out in front of them, and still decide that their child is not as important as having easily accessible guns? Yeah, I'm talking to you, Representative Lauren Boebert. We all saw you throw away the pin honoring 10-year-old Mateo Rodriguez, who lost her life in Uvalde to the gun violence that you helped perpetuate. Those green Converse were hers, and I'll say her name again and again so that you can never forget. Mateo Rodriguez, Mateo Rodriguez, Mateo Rodriguez. When the revolution ends, you better believe my hands will be weathered, dirt will be embedded in the creases of my calloused palms, because I'll be there rebuilding for my child. I'll be there to guarantee a future for her, a future where her light-up shoes can shine brightly as she dances in her classroom. She never has to think about her just-in-case plan as a first grader. She can relish in her innocence for longer than I ever thought possible. Thank you.
We got any other educators in the room? Couple, shout out to the educators. Shout out to the work y'all do.
My daughter comes home from school and says, "Mommy, we had a lockdown drill today." And I know she has practiced these before, but I ask her just to be sure, "Tell me what you do in a lockdown." And she responds, "We all have to hide in the closet in the dark and be very quiet, and it's kind of scary." My 15-year-old sister looks at me with worried eyes as she asks me, "She doesn't have light-up shoes, right?" And what a world to live in, where sending my 6-year-old to school with light-up shoes can be the difference between life and death. On May 24th, 2022, I got a notification of an active shooter at Uvalde Elementary School. I kept a tab open on my phone while I worked, constantly refreshing the web page for updates. I watched as the death toll slowly rises, and I tried to work through shaking hands and a knot in my throat too big to swallow. That day, I picked up my daughter from preschool and I held her for a long time. I prayed for the first time in years. I prayed for my girl, begging for her constant protection. I prayed for the mothers who had to go home without their child, just to notice she forgot to move her kids' laundry from the washer to the dryer and realized that it no longer matters. I prayed for the brothers and sisters who shared a room with their sibling, who had to wake up the next morning to an empty bed beside them. I prayed for the students who had to go back to school and never see their best friend smiling at them in the hall again. And I prayed for the teachers who now had to carry the burden of healing their community and themselves at the same time. But I said no prayers for the souls lost. My faith in the universe runs deep, so there is no doubt in my mind that the lives lost that day are in paradise. It's too late for prayers of hope for them. I work in a high school now, running through my just-in-case plan in my head daily. My students know exactly which common classroom items to turn into self-defense weapons. They know where to find our industrial-grade door stopper. They know to use our bookcases and desks to barricade the door, and they shouldn't have to know these things. So many of these kids experience violence at home and come to school for a safe haven. School should be the one place they don't have to worry about blood being spilled, and yet these children understand that having at least a little bit of fear every day could save their life. And tell me how that's supposed to be okay. I'm done asking why Greg Abbott decided vapes on school campuses were more important than gun reform, because we all know the truth is that he's trying to advance the school-to-prison pipeline. I'm done asking why they decided to have an armed person who doesn't even need to be an officer on every school campus was going to be effective. Maybe their ancient brains have developed short memory, but the rest of us all remember that armed officers who stood by in Uvalde. Tell me again how just one person on every campus is going to be effective. The truth is, they know it won't be. They're trying to put Band-Aids on the gaping wounds of Texas's children to appease the broken hearts of the parents who have bloodied hands from trying to stop their kids from bleeding out. Texas lawmakers do not care about our children. They care about pleasing private prisons, the NRA, and every other billion-dollar corporation that makes their money off the blood of our loved ones. I'm done asking questions. I'm done telling you to vote. Just know I'm here waiting for the revolution. I'm waiting to watch our systems crash and burn, and believe me, I will be there in the ruins, dancing on the graves of the dead agendas from conservatives who try to convince people that the real danger is drag queens, or trans kids, or books, or poetry, or music, or literally just educating children on the history of America. These are not your enemies. These are just things that make us human. I'm not even saying that guns are the real danger. What I'm saying is that the danger lies in the government officials that yell until they're red in the face that what's wrong with this country is the loss of traditional Christian values, when God knows that if Jesus were on earth today, he would tell these officials to cut out their tongues for spewing lies. He would tell them to gouge their eyes out for seeing nothing but hate for their neighbor. If they can stand before us claiming they are holier than thou, then how can they choose over and over to be disciples of evil, to be a slave to greed, to serve, to use hate to serve to the masses, to refuse to even try to perform miracles with their laws? How can they sit and listen to the parents of these children plead for them for change, their parents bleeding, their hearts bleeding out in front of them, and still decide that their child is not as important as having easily accessible guns? Yeah, I'm talking to you, Representative Lauren Boebert. We all saw you throw away the pin honoring 10-year-old Mateo Rodriguez, who lost her life in Uvalde to the gun violence that you helped perpetuate. Those green Converse were hers, and I'll say her name again and again so that you can never forget. Mateo Rodriguez, Mateo Rodriguez, Mateo Rodriguez. When the revolution ends, you better believe my hands will be weathered, dirt will be embedded in the creases of my calloused palms, because I'll be there rebuilding for my child. I'll be there to guarantee a future for her. A future where her light-up shoes can shine brightly as she dances in her classroom. She never has to think about her just-in-case plan as a first grader. She can relish in her innocence for longer than I ever thought possible. Thank you.
For some of you who don't remember the controversial events of August 14th, here is the one I wrote for our disgraced poet laureate. In the mind of my hero and NFL game highlight commentator, Chisel Adonis.
Here we go.
You need to tell me that Nephaltil De Leon became poet laureate instead of either our two legends, Diamond Mason and Amalia Ortiz. He held that position for 4 months, and on August 14th, he was fired for a derogatory term against Mexicans and blacks on his poem!
Yep.
2023 has been an unconventional year. We witnessed one of our poets, Shadari, being sexually abused by an Uber driver, and Benjamin Thelonious Sanders at Southern Fried. We lost WWE legendary Funk, aka Chainsaw Charlie. We lost William Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt. We've gone through a racial killing in Jacksonville, Florida. We even lost Pee Wee Herman, Tony Bennett, and the Harley Quinn legend Arlene Sorkin. But somehow, Nephaltil De Leon has disgraced our San Antonio community!
Fuck that guy.
But don't fuck that guy.
I'd rather climb on top of Hell in a Cell at King of the Ring 1998 and throw mankind off the structure than have you as our poet laureate. I would rather have Slipknot and in this moment perform at the Super Bowl with Lorna Shore as the headliner instead of Taylor Swift than have you as our poet laureate. I would rather have my poetry mob Mandy Lynn and Company K perform as a double feature at a domestic violence awareness event with me and Lace as the sacrifice than have you as our poet laureate. I would rather have Yesenia De La Torre baptize me in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in the river than have you as our poet laureate. I would rather form a squad of soldiers with my veteran hip-hop heroes for a Call of Duty team death match with Nicki Minaj and 21 Savage as our enemies than have you as our poet laureate. Nephaltil De Leon! Put your motherfucking head back down, you goddamn poodle! And I don't care if it's 4 months. Every atrocity and failure you commit, you go somewhere different. For your failures of unifying the San Antonio community, consider your name written down on the list of Mandy Court's dishonorable human beings along with Ron DeSantis, Donald Jackass Trump, and copycat bitch Greg Abbott. You're not over your dreams. I'm not getting roasted by the poetry community has been absolutely deleted. You are a lot worse than Phil Jackson of the New York Knicks, whom, in the words of my man Stephen A. Smith from First Take said, signed Lamar Odom, who was on crack!
In the future, where maybe you weren't here, I'd love to say you changed your mind. You were kind, nice, thoughtful, cared about everyone, even those who didn't agree with you. I'd like to imagine you weren't bitter. You held no anger maybe about what happened to you in your life. I'd love to say maybe you went out for a run and that oak tree never fell on you. That maybe your daddy never died of a heart attack when you were a teenager. I'd love to tell my kids that life was now nearly perfect in Texas because one day you decided enough was enough. And you have this pride we have in Texas where we want to show America we can take care of our own. I tell my son how much of a backbone you had when you turned our future around, where you one day spoke up and stood for justice, kindness, fairness, and no longer saw you against many of us. I'd like to say one day my mom would go to bed knowing my siblings are safe out late because you made a change that no longer condones racism here. That being a woman who's had 2 miscarriages one being a complex one and near complications, I felt safe, knowing my state would let me make choices to save my life or my rights in my body. That I could draw my Texas proudly when someone asked where I was from. That I can tell my kids that both their grandmothers were immigrants who worked their way to be and stay here and never had to swim currents again, never had to fear dying on the way here, that didn't have to get here in a hot semi-truck that became their hearse, or died among the dry desert called home. I'd like to explain to them that the river current took lives before, but this gentle soul didn't place inhumane barriers with saw-like blades to kill anyone. No, he instead thought of ways to help fix and come up with solutions. That he was a soft soul who followed God and really loved his neighbors. He never placed guns above children. He adopted, but realized not every child in the system had fairy tale stories like his daughter. This man was someone to look for. And then I'd also tell my daughter that this man's wife became the female Latina first lady ever in Texas, but we would say it with pride, because why wouldn't I want my kids to have these examples? I'd explain to my nephews that there's no reason to be scared about being in Texas anymore and being trans, because they were safe to be who they are, because though this man doesn't agree, his people deserve safety regardless. You see, I don't think this is something that can't happen. I just feel maybe that if I figure out where Greg Abbott's life turned his heart for the worse, then maybe he wouldn't be so fucking evil. Even signing bills against those with disabilities like himself. Who hurt you, Greg? Heavy shit. I don't know how to explain how I'm jealous of her. She seems to be perfect and have what you need. I beg so much for your attention and time, sometimes for mere decency. All I want now is for you to be there for our kids. Is it sad that every time you change your voice or want to do something nice, it's because you want something in return? Is it heartbreaking that when you seem tired, I think you've been with her? I call her her, not because she couldn't be a he, but because I hate her and how she becomes you. You are my most tumultuous relationship thus far. I have imprinted my soul and heart on the recovery of you from her. I am jealous of how she consumed you for years, how she turned who I love into someone we didn't know. I hate the day you met her. I try to think that maybe I failed you, because if you had enough from us or me, you wouldn't have accepted her. Fallen deeply, madly in love with her, she took you and hasn't fully given you back. I've been told that she consumes and never gives back. I can't admit I lost you when you come to surface at times, and I get hope you're coming back to me. She takes you away at times. You walk around with an empty gaze. I ask many questions, but I see no flicker in your eyes at times. No matter how I hug you and protect you, I feel like I'm not enough like her. Her grip, the rush she gives you, and what she sends reminders of. I'm a realist. I know she will always be near. I just don't lose hope you will come back fully one day, but I hate her. I wonder at times what she has that I don't. Never forget, I will always be here with my heart on my sleeve. And please tell heroin I fucking hate her, sister.
She says she wanted to leave San Antonio because there isn't enough to do. She says she didn't like San Antonio because the pavement burned her feet through her shoes in June. She said Austin had better tacos than San Antonio.
I heard hippie shit.
It was at that moment that I put my foot down. It was louder than, hold on. There we go, thank you. I don't have boots on, so it's like, it wasn't audible. Anyway, I put my foot down. San Anto, the beautiful home of wooden porches and the Rastaman, chiquitos chasing chupacabras and chancletas. The block isn't too hot. It's just hot enough to render out what's not supposed to be here. This This city is home, a revolving door of entertainment and opportunity, and y'all just need to get on board. San Antonio, where the only thing that is the same is the construction on I-35. They've been doing the same work on the same part of the road since before I was born, but besides that, man, this city is heaven. San Antonio, the river city, a melting pot. Here, we'll definitely give you whatever it is that you want, and then we'll sprinkle some cheese on top. It's the home. It's the home of the taco. We got everything from the taco poet to taco stands. We got mini tacos, grande tacos, regular tacos, crispy tacos, deep fried tacos, puffy tacos, vegan tacos, frozen tacos, tacos norteños. There's a taco garage on the north side. I have a cousin who even sells bootleg taco t-shirts on the corner on the east side. San Antonio, there is something about the city so alluring, from Los Spurs to Fiesta to Six Flags to Hemisphere. We are a people forever evolving and easily enchanted. Y'all need to take pride in our city. Shit, the food is amazing. No, the food is the best. Nightlife on par, so just know that you don't need to make the same mistake that she did. Because when it comes to choosing between this city and anything else, people need to know that I'm sewn into San Antonio seams composed of taquitos and tamales and a hint of jalapenos.
Yeah.
Lots of tequila.
Yeah.
Lots of tequila. A little bit of Lone Star. And whatever else they got on special here at Hondro's Garden Patio. The Alamo City, mi gente, y'all need to ride with us. Come to Puro Slam on Tuesdays and vibe with us. Come to Blah on Wednesdays and get live with us. This city is our city. And through poetry, through art, through alcohol, through fiesta, through celebration, through food, man, we did it all for you.
You might hear like this, so I'm giving that compliment. You're adorable. No, you. So I have two short ones.
Two short shit. Say a little.
Edited shit.
Edited shit.
I should have a warning sign. Please wear shoes in the bedroom. There are shatters of my broken heart everywhere. I don't want your precious feet pierced by the shards that are caught in the cracks between the tile slats. Broken glass swept under the rug by those who claim to care. Under the rug, the shards are pounded into powder, and there's shard dust in the air now. So what now? What happens when the dust fills our lungs and we breathe the pain of yesteryear? The shards keep doing damage years after the brokenness happened. Why? What can we do but keep sweeping? Keep vacuuming, keep going over the cracks until it's all swept up, cycling through my healthy coping mechanisms, because that's what I know I have to do, to gather up all the broken pieces of my shattered heart and glue them back together, trying to get through this life without hurting myself or others. Though the melancholy is great, there will be pain either way. Whatever choice is chosen, stars will burn for eternity, and we'll still be trying to figure this shit out.
Come on.
Super new shit.
Super new shit.
It's fresh. Super.
I've never had a sister, but if I did, I would love her dearly. I'd make her some food and a comfy place to sleep. I'd let her rest and give her love. I'd watch her grow and marvel at her beauty, adoring her carefree movements, admiring the sun in her hair. I'd watch her dance in the wind, catching fire to her spirit of fresh air. I'd see the rage in her eyes when injustice arises, and I'd stand with her in the fight. I'd fill my own cup and still be available to her. I'd wash her wounds and bathe her children, singing them all to sleep. I've always wanted sisters, so maybe I'll start having some. Maybe I'll start being one to other women. A better one than I was before. A brave new beauty. Supporting women that I know and love. Even those that I don't know and don't love. That I'd advocate for them all, because together we are stronger. And we're all one. So every woman is every woman. So maybe I've had sisters all along.
Don't write checks you can't cash. This call has been sponsored by whiskey. Whiskey. With your trauma, you probably needed this. Hey, boo. Chances are you're probably snuggling up under a backboard with the last guy you rebounded with. But I just wanted to see if you were thinking about what tomorrow is going to feel like after you realize you dropped the first round pick. You see, I was there on those late nights talking you off of the cliff of sobriety before you dove headfirst in a relapse. I made you feel at home in my arms when you didn't even have a place to stay. I gave you the direction you needed when your mental GPS was telling you to take a left swipe on your right wrist. Talking until my phone died to make sure you didn't. Just like everyone that I gave to, I feel unappreciated. Like all the cool shit I put you onto, all the therapy sessions we had, I made you better for somebody else. I'm not even gonna mention the monetary investments I made in my discretion, but look at you. Living your best life with a new attitude that I created for you, and I didn't even get a thank you. I didn't even get a thank you card, an edible arrangement, a gift card, something. Maybe even a bottle of whiskey, because at least it would give me the confidence to send this text. Or even a thank you note from the next hikers to cross your path for all the life I planted and trash I cleaned. But if you are alone, thinking about how I would open your legs and your mind, how good both of those felt then. WID.
A little bit.
No, a lot of it.
I spent time under a tree today. Magnolia sweet with honeysuckle morning. Confederate branches hung low in liberal sadness. Maple sap thick. Like indigenous roots crying out in sacrilege. Trunk weak with remembrance of those lost to lethargy. 1,000 penniless wishes drip from this killing tree. Bark chipped like jagged rocks, no shade for the weary. Sitting to the left of the original capital of Confederate States, this is the bloody Caddo Parish lynching tree. The gallows home to warm-blooded ghosts persecuted for crimes of humanity. The men, the women, the children, sympathizers, God's leftovers, only found guilty of being human, hung here, then thrown out the back door by the peanut gallery. Wind whistles through stoic leaves like oak, sings Billie Holiday's rasp hums low. Bodies of Christ howling out to a piece of God. Pray for us now in the hour of our velvet gray ashes, though the lynchers need prayer more than we. Swing low, sweet caveat, while build a boy, good old boy politics observe the right to hate. Stand with heart like willow and weep beneath sandpaper bark. O lynching tree. I spent time under a tree today. I tasted of her strange fruit, heard the cheeky pow of fascist slave trade, iron chains and pounding feet together. This tree and I wept in violent serenity. The bloody Caddo Parish lynching tree still stands today. A 120-year-old transplant in the shadow of the Caddo Parish courthouse, where my baby feet found their soil and no baby feet were protected. An unmarked tree providing protection to the iron fence concrete Confederate monument at its feet. Serving jury to remind me of the innocence lost, the burning chariot of slick injustice in the dead of Louisiana's summer heat. Next to the massive Confederate monument waiting in a safety box to be protected from liberal marksmen like you and me. Find my breath labored below her branches, remembering. Okay, I think I broke the microphone because it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Turning it the wrong way.
I turned it both ways. And you don't be words. Oh shit, that works. Okay, so this is a poem I want to do sometimes, but I never do because I'm chicken shit.
Chicken shit!
It's hard to shit. Paint my sky gray, paint my sky blue, paint my sky swirl of what I'm feeling without you. Clouds hang overhead, trouble behind. How I wish the sun would come out and ever clear my mind. I usually hate the sound of my own voice, but I fall madly in love with the sound of pain tapping at my window, dripping heartache reflected in etched glass. Trapped in between shards of memory, reliving stormy nights and forged sheets in between lightning strikes and hurricanes. The space where steam betrayed bodies and made slip insides of our thoughts. We cradled each other with the thunder of bodies rocking to the rhythm of mud puddles. We were accidental electricity. And with every headboard squill, I begged you to never leave me. You tossed my body about, twisted my thoughts. The sound of waterfalls crashing into concrete walls is so soothing, but baby, your mama named you after a hurricane, and you ripped through my heart. Gale force winds left my puddle of tears along the rubber road, created the storm of the century, had me in the third eye blind. You obliterated me. In most cases, storm chasers find rainbows at the edge of the earth after rain. But in my case, this storm chaser reeks of mildewed whiskey and blame. Your hellstorm has come and gone now. I'm still searching for a rainbow that ends in fool's gold, just learning to trust the lemon drop sun and its reprieve from you. But every time the clouds turn gray in front of a sky so blue, swirling a whirlwind of gray blue, the sky tries to hold back tears, but I cannot. I still think of you. And this melody is the only way to express the melancholy that plagues my bones each time the bleeding sky chokes up your name. This melody. Paint my sky gray, paint my sky blue, paint my sky swirl of what I'm feeling without you. Tonight is a special day for me. It's not my birthday, but you can act like it is.
Okay.
I am hosting my last show tomorrow, so I can just be a poet.
Yeah.
Because poetry said I've been forsaking her, that I stopped giving her, and stopped giving her the neck, right? So I have to. You like that? So I'm going to share with you my favorite piece, and then a piece that I wrote that I really enjoyed. So favorite shit?
Favorite shit.
That's my favorite shit too. You're amazing. But it may just be a rumor. See, if I've experienced your greatness and it did something to me, but now I'm lost within your absence and I know that I've consumed you, but time was never really ours from the beginning. See, now you say you love me and I'm standing in the way, but you just want to love me and I just want my way. How can you love me when it's eating me away? I said my heart is beating crazy and it's pushing me away, but now we both sound crazy. Drove sanity away. See, we live completed, but only for the moment. You said you love me. I know it, but I just wanted you to show it in the simplest of ways. So how could I play me, letting down my guard? You don't understand me, been alone for me is hard. So I think I'm starting to feel it, that sinking in my stomach. My mind is going crazy, seeing petals of a lotus. But will you ever notice? So I weed from my garden before my soul where your heart is, but I can't pretend that I'm not hurting, that it isn't working. So maybe we'll be friends forever. Maybe we'll take flights forever, but forever is whenever. I am not trying to change it. I just love so deeply, and there's nothing above us, even when you're underneath me. But now we both sound crazy. We drove sanity away. We live completed, but only for the moment. So you said you love me. I know it, but I just wanted you to show it in the simplest of ways. So how could
See, you never tried to hurt me, lies. So why is it I'm hurting? See, now I'm numb and I can't feel it. Unless I get real lit, then I'm consumed again. Consumed again, and I want you to feel it.
Paid the price. I've already built it. So maybe we'll love again in another life. But it's time for me to kill it before I start to feel it. Poem. Ooh, I like it. Thank you. Phone drop. So this poem for me is my favorite. I love wordplay, right? I like words. I'm like, however, I know in an audience not filled with poets, it may go over everyone's head. So thank you for being a part of one of my favorite pieces.
High level shit.
You've untangled and enlightened me. Shown me the pathway to your unfathomable infinities, like the unseen centuries of centaurs, serenading sirens and rhythmic, algorithmic, erectormizing remedies weave. Already assume one identity. It's a union of sacred plenties, crafted to bud joy gently in peaceful places of divinity. Unmenacing tango of deficiencies into notoriously sustaining victories. The good and plenty of the many thought pennies you pour into my outer henny. See angels, they blush every time you mention me, knowing the unfolding heat of our love. Our unfolding heat of our love transcends humidity, a soulful intimacy, turning the earth's water source into our poetry, winter mint tea. So show me the whole of your whole, these entries, trees, so I can gander and see it as a bee without the need to turn it on its axis. Enlighten me. To it moi, an unearthly cast pour vous, or you are me, and I am you, enlighten me.